Shit, that's crazy. I don't know what's going on, bro. See, it said we was live. See if it's on, bro. Say messing with us, man. This is crazy. We live. Oh yeah, gosh, yeah. Why it ain't showing though? It's lucky I can. Okay, there it is. There it is. Esau will not prevail. All right. Shalom. Shalom. We're gonna turn to the east. Start off, we're gonna give all honor and glory to Yahawah, BAHASHAM, YAHAWASHI, BAHASHAM, HAQADASH. Right? Double honors to our apostles and elders, a great millstone, who will well teach you in sound doctrine. Strong shalom to the hopeful elect and the rest of the large multitude, men, women, and children, that the Lord will have mercy on these last days. Right, Brother Kadash, Brother Liyash. All right, with Service of Zion, coming back with another lesson through the Spirit and power of YAHWASHI. So we just gonna go into Daniel 8. All right, break Daniel 8 down today. Lord willing, it's edifying. We're not gonna go too in detail. We're gonna go in detail as much as the Spirit allows, but this, if we go into detail, we'll be here for 3 hours. So yeah, we could just start from the top.
All right, come. This is Daniel chapter 8, verse 1. In the 3rd year of the reign of King Belshazzar, a vision appeared unto me, even unto me, Daniel, after that which appeared unto me at the first. And I saw in a vision, and it came to pass when I saw that I was at Shushan, in the place which is in the province of Elam.
In the palace.
Oh, Slakia. I'll read that from the top. It says, and I saw in a vision, and it came to pass when I saw that I was at Shushan in the palace, which is in the province of Elam. And I saw in a vision, and I was by the river of Ulai.
Right, con. Because right, all right, go ahead.
Verse 3, then I lifted up my eyes and saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram which had 2 horns, and the 2 horns were high, but one was higher than the other, and the higher came up last.
All right, the con. So this ram, it says, then I lifted up my eyes and saw, and behold, there stood before a river a ram which had 2 horns. All right, that ram is the Median Persian Empire. Okay. And matter of fact, it was it the capital, was it called Perks? All right, the capital was called Perks. You had a guy named they called him King Cyrus, right, who actually came from that area called Perks, which was the capital of Persia, right? Which was the capital of Persia. All right, so the guy named King Cyrus, right, during the time of around 539, 540 BC. All right, he had sent Darius. Okay, he had sent Darius on command. Right, he had sent Darius on command from Media to invade Belshazzar. All right, because King Cyrus, his I believe his stepfather was the king over Media, and they started to vote. They will vote and start to what's the word I'm looking for? They will vote and start to uplift King Cyrus, okay, until eventually he became the king over the whole shebang. All right. And what it says which had two horns, and two horns were high. Right, that was the Persian Empire. What would be the Persian Empire? But one was higher than the other, the Persian Empire, and higher came up last. Right, Persian Empire came over the Media Empire. Right, which eventually they I don't want to jump the gun, but eventually through King Xerxes, they coined it the Medio-Persian Empire, right, where you get that term from, which the Persia would be the Iranians. All right, you got it.
Verse 4, I saw the ram pushing westward and northward and southward, so that no beast might stand before him.
Yeah, because they conquered all the land from Babylon to Syria, Egypt. They started to conquer everything. All right, go ahead.
It says, so that no beast might stand before him, neither was there any that could deliver out of his hand. But he did according to his will and became great.
Right, that's why he get the name Great Cyrus the Great. So Cyrus became great.
Verse 5, and I was considering, behold, an he-goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth.
Right, and that he-goat would be Alexander the Great. All right, or Alexander the Freak, Alexander the whatever, whatever you call him, right? And when he came, that he-goat Alexander, when he came into power, he was around 20 years old, 20 years of age. All right, and he died around when he was 32, 33. All right, so that was roughly what, 12 years? 12 years he came reigned in power, man. Okay, so like you can read from top.
Daniel chapter 8 verse 5, and I was considering, behold, an he-goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth and touched not the ground.
Right, the west is Greece, so he came from Greece, right? Go ahead.
And Salaki, he says it touched not the ground. Like he was breathing through these territories. You know why? Because it was prophesied for him to do so.
He was exalted, right? He was at a high, he was at the height of, he was he basically like a LeBron. LeBron is what, 36, going on 37, still playing like he 18. His feet is still high above the ground, man.
Continuing on in Daniel chapter 8 verse 5, and the goat had a notable horn between his eyes.
Salakia, read that part again. Salakia, I was looking at that.
It's Daniel chapter 8 verse 5. It says, I just read the top. It said, and I was considering, behold, and he-goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth and touched not the ground. And the goat had a notable horn between his eyes.
Yeah, and really that notable horn is the bloodline, okay, Alexander the Great. But you also had right before it says that, and the goat had a notable horn between his eyes. That goes into Macedonia, right? Matter of fact, we can get that real quick. I can real quick. This is
I was about to say, I'm gonna go to the blue letter real quick.
right? Got that first Maccabees.
That notable in the Hebrew and the Strong's Concordance is H2379, and it says vision, conspicuousness. It says oracle with prophet, agreement, conspicuousness in the spirit. So that notable horn between his eyes was prophesied power that was given to him. You know what I'm saying? All the prophecies that he took over and everything he did, like we said before, was according to prophecy.
Yeah, It says what was that word for notable again? Not the word, but what it means. Oh yeah,
Vision.
Yeah,
Vision, oracle, prophet.
Yeah, that notable horn, man. It says between his eyes, and going into Macedonia. So that's why I got First Maccabees real quick. Matter of fact, before I get that, you can read the next verse.
Daniel chapter 8, verse 6. And he came to the ram that had two horns, which I had seen standing before the river, and ran unto him in the fury of his power.
Yeah, because right. So matter of fact, you want to get that date? King Xerxes. Yeah, because King Xerxes, okay, like I said, who coined where you get the term Media-Persian Empire from? All right, he coined it that, and Xerxes reigned what after Cyrus. Was it after? You could read that. It's like I don't want to jump the gun.
This is the Harper's Bible Dictionary. I'm reading the excerpt from Xerxes, page 1152. It says Xerxes, the name of several rulers of the Persian Empire. Xerxes the first, who ruled 486 to 465 BC, and is known from Greek history for his attempt at conquering the Greek mainland. He is probably the ruler referred to in Ezra chapter 4, verse 6. Stop out there.
Wait, what's this? Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, so Xerxes, it says that he reigned from 486 to 465. He was and is known from Greek history, right? Because Xerxes, like we said, he came after Cyrus. Cyrus was around what 540, 539. We can look. Yeah, 539, 540 BC, right? Get that date real quick. Because around 540 was when Darius went in and did his thing. You got it.
This is also the Harper's Dictionary, page 200. Cyrus II. It says a Persian emperor and founder of the Achaemenid dynasty, ruled of Babylonia 539 to 530 BC.
Yeah, from 539, 530 BC, and then you had then around 486. You had Xerxes. So what 430? Like 486 to 460. I believe it was like 465.
486, 465, right?
465, and then you had who we about to go into also too was Darius the third. You can get him real quick. Because Darius the third, I believe, was the last one to reign before Alexander took them down.
Yeah, this is Darius the third, page 207. It says Darius the third, the last ruler of the empire, who was murdered shortly after Alexander's final defeat of the Persian army. The reference to Darius the Persian is in Nehemiah 12 and 12. So
yeah, so
336 to 330 BC.
336 to 330 BC, right? So he was the last to rule before Alexander, destroyed him. That's why we read 6 again. It says, and he came, Daniel 8 and 6, and he came to the ram that had two horns, Media-Persia, which I had seen standing before the river, and ran unto him in the fury of his power. Okay, and then matter of fact, let me get this real quick. This is Daniel chapter 7, and this Daniel chapter 7 and verse. I'm gonna start at 5. It says, and behold, another beast, a second, like to a bear. Right, this bear in this verse is pursuing to Persia, okay, / Media. It says, like to a bear, and it raised up itself on one side, and it had 3 ribs. Okay, so that 3 ribs, matter of fact, that 3 ribs is going into Lydia, Babylon, and Media. All right. And it says, and it had 3 ribs in the mouth of it, between the teeth of it. And they said thus unto it, arise, devour much flesh. All right. So arise and devour much flesh. So that's going into like I said earlier, when they had voted King Cyrus to be king. All right. So that they would That's what that's going into, to devour much flesh. And it says, after this I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard. Right, the leopard is going into the Greek Empire, mainly Alexander the Great. All right, because he will wear a leopard print on his head, I believe. Right.
Yeah, it's actually a picture that in his dictionary.
Oh, Con, shit, you want to get that?
I put on my recently.
Con,
it's showing like, man, prophecy is real.
Yeah, Con. You know, the Bible doing. Oh, this is secular history, man. Things you can find in secular history, man.
Yeah.
Thank you. Con.
You think all these made up stories, you know, consist of the Bible, but like really, once you get history in the mix and prove, you know, through HAQADASH that these things actually happen outside of the scriptures, like you can confound anybody. Like, you know, the scriptures is enough, but to that scoffer who wants to go the extra mile and say, oh, prove it, prove it, prove it. We've proven it.
Yeah, Con. Con, you got anything else you want to say on that? Yeah, Con, can you read Daniel 7:6 again?
Yeah, Con. This is Daniel chapter 7, verse 6. It says, after this I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard, which had upon the back of the 4 wings of a fowl. The beast had also 4 heads, and dominion was given to it.
Right, so you want to break the 4 wings down?
Yeah, Con. Those 4 wings represent his generals. You know what I'm saying? You know, we went through some of them, like Ptolemy, Antiochus,
Ptolemy, Seleucus,
they got Lysimachus, and then the 4th one, I need Cassandra. Right, so we know through First Maccabees, verse 10, like once Alexander died, instead of
that's what I didn't go to it. Yeah, we could go to it. We could go to it right now. That's why I had went back. I said, that's why I wanted to read that first before we went to it, because I thought about it.
I'm right here for a second.
Oh yeah, Con. So yeah, before we get that, yeah, it said, yeah, in the back of it 4 wings. That was the 4 generals, like the brother said, man. You know. Oh, one more precept, real quick. Let me see if I'm thinking of Revelation
13.
Yeah. Let's see. This is Revelation 13, and let me hold that. Let me get it. This is Revelation 13. I'm gonna start at the top. The point I want is in verse 2. And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. Right. So I mean, I'm gonna go into this, but the 7 heads, you know, represents the Greeks, the Romans, Spanish, French, Germanium Major, Germanium Minor, and the British. Right, I believe that was 7. So that was the 7 heads, right? And upon his head, his horns, 10 crowns. All right, going into his rulership. Okay, going into the NATO and the EU. Okay, EU being the political part, and NATO being the military part. All right.
So like the EU also being the monetary part.
Con. And it says, verse 2, and the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, going into the Greeks. His feet, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, okay, and his mouth as a mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat, and great authority, going into his military. Right, so you're going into the mouth of a lion. I believe that lion was what's that? St. Daniel. The lion was I think Iran. Let me see. that lion. I don't want to quote it wrong. That lion was Daniel 7. The Syrians. It's lucky. That lion was the Assyrians. It's lucky. Yeah, so yeah, you want to get that first Maccabees real quick?
Yeah,
because I'll end up breaking this whole Revelation 13 down. I'm gonna leave that alone right now.
I started like I started 7.
No, I said start at the top. Start at the top. That's what I was reading from. Yeah, because we was going into Darius.
So
yeah, kind of good.
This is First Maccabees chapter 1, verse 1.
Right.
And it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Shittim or Kittim, how do you pronounce this? Had smitten Darius, king of the Persians and Medes, that he reigned in his stead the first over Greece.
Yeah, so Alexander was the first in his time, first ruler in Greece, man. All right, you got it.
Verse 2.
And made Slacky. Let me see. I might have a preset. Let me see. It's like that. Daniel 10. No, 10 and like 20. Yeah, this is Daniel 10 and 20. Then said he, knowest thou wherefore I come unto thee? And now will I return to fight with the prince of Persia. And when I am gone forth, lo, the prince of Greece shall come. Thanks. God, which was Alexander the Great. But I will show thee that which is noted in the scripture of truth. And there is none that holdeth with me these things, but Michael your prince. Yeah, God. So just something else to back that up. So Alexander was prophesied all through the books of Daniel to come, man. And he actually, he was shown this, man. Alexander the Great was shown the prophecies, man. He was like, "This is you." Daniel was like, "This is you, man." You know what I'm saying? This is talking about you. No, because these things wasn't known before this time, man. That's why we're gonna read continuing on in Daniel 8 that Daniel was, when he was talking to the angel, he had to get clarification, man, because these things, they were living in this time, man. You know what I'm saying? Imagine you getting these visions and you don't know what's going on because you're living during the moment. So you have to get it explained to you because this is something that was foretold to come.
The person who told Alexander the Greek about Daniel he was like a high priest at the time. His name was Yehuda or something like that.
Yeah.
But like, an interesting thing I learned, Elder Prophet Ramla went into an article on the trumpet, and it was telling how he didn't even need a translator. Alexander the Great was reading the prophecies about him in ancient Paleo Hebrew and getting that understanding because he was puffed up his whole life that he was a demigod. His father was Zeus, this, that, and the third. But reality sunk in, and like we've been saying, through the spirit, the power of YAHWASHI, that prophecy trumps all. That's just beautiful. I just thought about that real quick.
Yeah, hey, and that's a beautiful point too, because they were always reading our scripts and the manuscripts, scrolls or what have you, because they wanted to understand. You read that all through the Bible, man. First, you got Ezra chapter 4. Okay, the same story link up with First Ezra chapter 5, I believe. So you either chapter 5 or chapter 1, the last couple verses. So you had throughout history, everybody always was reading our scripts to understand what to move next. How you think Esau's doing what he's doing, other than obviously the power of YAHWASHI? But Esau is studying these things. I posted a video on the channel of Bill Gates talk about the Bible, man. You know what I'm saying? Bill Gates reading it so they know how to move, man, and know how you think they know how to keep you down and what to give you. You know what I'm saying? The Superman's enemy don't know how to know how to keep him in a cage. You can't keep a man like Superman in a cage. How can you keep a man like Superman in a cage? Giving him his weaknesses, okay? Giving him the kryptonite, okay? And it's going to keep him in bondage. So we know how to keep us in bondage by giving us our kryptonite, okay? Which is everything outside of this book, all right? So, and we're going to read too that Antiochus was in all through our scriptures, man. And he was reading the scrolls. which is how he knew how to. Which is why he's the king that was over us. That was real gruesome. He's the one that brought in the painting and likeness of their images. Okay, First Maccabees 3:48. Okay, it was under his reign, man. It's like you got it. All right, I don't know why it's looking like that.
This is First Maccabees chapter 1, verse 2. It says, and made many wars and won many strongholds and slew the kings of the earth.
Yeah, Alexander was fierce, man. You got it.
Now, verse 3, and went through to the ends of the earth and took spoils of many nations.
Yeah, even though he was fierce, man, you know, he allowed Israel to uphold to our customs, man. You know, he wasn't as fierce as Antiochus, man. He was fierce in war, in battle, but in terms of to the Israelites, he still allowed us to keep the lights up in the sanctuary, uphold to our customs and feasts, man. You know, he didn't tax us as much, you know.
Now the Lord allowed him to have mercy on us. And another interesting thing is he didn't just do that with the Israelites. Like, he will always try to appease to that person's culture, to be their higher power. So he would go to their priest, their temple, you know, their form of worship, and then, you know, just learn more about it, which is kind of interesting. While I'm doing my research.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And it's crazy. You got to think about it. He only reigned for 12 years. You know what I'm saying? He died around 32, 33, and he was when he came into power. So it's like in them 12 years, he was learning all that knowledge, man. He was conquering, he was doing all that. That's 12 years, man. That ain't nothing, you know?
Like, real quick, that's how you know it's important to know your enemy. Like, even Alexander the Great, or the Greeks, Salakia, knew that, like, if I understand the mindset of these people, I know, like, how to make my moves. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Exactly. And that's crazy that he died. He only reigned for 12 years. That's spiritual in a sense, because he allowed it was in a sense of completion to go into that next phase, because Antiochus came up and caused havoc on Israel, man. Abomination and desolation. You know, he caused havoc on us, man. After that 12 years, you know, it was that next phase, like I said, for us to go into that next realm, man. To be Hellenized completely, man. Because the four generals kept the Hellenistic understanding and mindset going all over the world, man. And we still in that mindset to this day. You see? So that was that next phase. After that 12 years, here come that wicked root, known as Antiochus, as we want to read.
The wicked, the same spirit that's carrying on the Willie Lynch, you know?
Even though they were the same people, even though Antiochus is the same people as Edom, it's no different than Vladimir Putin and Sleepy Joe. They the same people, but our people over there are going through different things under that rulership than we are over here under Sleepy Joe's rulership. You know, Esau always been at war with each other, man. You know, that's why you got the Romans and the Romans smashing on the Greeks, man. You know, the Greeks doing their, you know what I'm saying? They always was battling each other, man. That was just really the ones that's really higher up. That's a diversion tactic that they would do. You know what I'm saying? Because they all really in cahoots with each other, but they will fight each other and do different things to keep the people confused. You know what I'm saying? Which is why during the different revolts and different wars, you will have Edomites fighting with Israel against their people. Just like right now, you got Edomites fighting against the government. You see, because you got to cause that diversion tactic to have real Edomites really thinking something is off. You know what I mean? It's like, you got it.
This is First Maccabees chapter 1, verse 3. It says, it's like I started to again. It says, and made many wars and won many strongholds and slew the kings of the earth, and went through to the ends of the earth and took spoils in many nations, insomuch that the earth was quiet before him, whereupon he was exalted and his heart was lifted up. And he gathered a mighty strong host and ruled over countries and nations and kings, who became tributaries unto tributaries unto him.
Yeah, and we just read that in Daniel 8 and 5. It said his touch not the ground. His feet it says from the west of the face of the whole earth and touch not the ground. We just read it here. It said he was exalted and his heart was lifted up. Right. He had great power, man. All right. In a nutshell, you got it.
Verse 4, it says, and he gathered a mighty host, a mighty strong host, and ruled over countries and nations and kings who became tributaries unto him. And after these things he fell sick,
right,
and perceived that he should die.
Right. After that 12 years, he fell sick, perceived that he should die. Right. He was around 32, 33.
Verse 30, verse 6, wherefore he called his servants, such as were honorable, and had been brought up with him from his youth, and parted his kingdom among them while he was yet alive. Verse 7, so Alexander reigned 12 years and then died, and his servants bare rule every one in his place. And after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves, so that their sons after them many years, and evils were multiplied in the earth.
Right, man, evils were multiplied in the earth. You got it. That's why the scriptures say in Job 9:24, the earth is given into the hands of the wicked. Right, you got it.
Yeah.
Showing you that he's the wicked. What lineage, what race of people is this? Evils were increased in the earth, man. That's Esau Edom, man. You got it.
Verse 10. It says, and there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes, son of Antiochus the king, who had been in hostage at Rome, and he reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks.
Yeah, so Antiochus, Antiochus is not even his real name. I forgot what his real name is. But Antiochus and Epiphanes were two names that he went by. All right. He was later called Epiphanes, but before Epiphanes, he was called Antiochus. And then before that, he, his real whatever name. I forgot, man. I can't even tell you. But yeah, he went by two different names. I know for a fact. And then it said his father, it said son of Antiochus the king, who had been in hostage at Rome. Right, he was a hostage at Rome, which is why a lot of the customs, even though they're the same people, they had different manners of customs. But that's why a lot of them is cohesive. I think that's the right word, with each other, right?
Yeah, that's
So when he was he served as a hostage, around like 189, 175, which is where his father learned the ways of the Romans. Okay, and that's where Antiochus got a lot of that information from his father when he was out there being a hostage. And then like I said too, I think it was defeated around 190. Okay, so you keep reading on that. It said in the 7th year of the kingdom of the Greeks, right? Go ahead.
Here comes verse 11. In those days went there out of Israel wicked men, who persuaded many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us. For since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow. Right, that going in the Hellenization. Even apply that to slavery. When people escape, they're like, we was better off with Massa. Like, at least we had food, we had shelter, we had a way to work, provide for ourselves. The Stockholm syndrome, you're not providing, you're not working, like you're an indentured servant.
Right, like in Egypt.
Yeah, we would have been better off with Pharaoh.
Mm-hmm.
Continue on, verse 12, it says, so this device pleased them well. Then certain of the people were so forward herein that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinances of the heathen. Whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem according to the customs of the heathen. That's going into the gymnasium, where they would exercise and be butt ass naked. You saw Edom as a natural sodomite. Yeah.
No, actually, you could read the last verse. Read on 14. Yeah, you could read 15. We could go back to Daniel 8.
It says, and made themselves uncircumcised and forsook the holy covenant and joined themselves to the heathen and were sold to do mischief. Right. So obviously you cannot literally go back to, well, back then it would be a doctor, but you can't go dig up your old foreskin and put it back on. They came uncircumcised in the mind.
Right.
So they neglected the covenant, like it says in Hebrews 8:8, or around Hebrews chapter 8. There would be no need for the second covenant if the first one was, kept thoroughly, roughly paraphrasing.
Right. And yeah, because the law is not with fault, but the people. what's the fault, you know, and in keeping, because we under these different captivities and different vibrations, we can't keep it to the best of our ability. I mean, we can't keep it perfectly, so we keep it to the best of our abilities, which is why in the kingdom, new covenant, it's going to be in our inward parts. And he said, this is what Antiochus was pushing, that Hellenistic lifestyle. Our people was converting to being a heathen. You know, they was converting to the mindset of a heathen, which is why, like the brother said, they were uncircumcised in the mind. Okay, which is why that's when you go into the New Testament, they say there's no difference between neither Jew nor Greek, because our people was upholding to, it started with the Greeks in terms of the mindset of just completely being gone. Okay, we go back to Daniel 8, but you go back to 7. I mean, that's where we at, 7 on 7, verse 7.
Daniel chapter 8 verse 7. And I saw him come close unto the ram, and he was moved with choler against him.
Right. So again, remember, the ram is the Median Persians, and it said and he was moved with choler against him, meaning bitter hate, or bitter hatred. Okay.
It says moved with choler against him, and smote the ram and brake his 2 horns, and there was no power in the ram to stand before him, but he cast him down to the ground and stamped upon him, and there was none that could deliver the ram out of his hand.
Yeah, he destroyed them, man. He destroyed the Median Persians, man. All right, because Alexander had a great army, man. Okay, it said there was none that could deliver the ram out of his hand. Yeah, because his military power, man, and which is where the Romans get the concept of that military might, man. You know, from actually Alexander the Great. You know, like I said, they're the same people, but then it transition into what we have today. You got it.
Verse 7.
Verse 8.
Verse 8. It says, therefore the he-goat waxed very great,
which is Alexander the Great.
And when he was strong, the great horn was broken, and for it came up 4 notable ones toward the 4 winds of heaven.
Right, we just went through this, you know, and then when Antiochus was around, around that time, it was around like 175 BC. All right, you got it.
Verse 9. And out of one of them came forth a little horn, which waxed exceeding great.
That little horn is Antiochus IV. Okay.
Yeah, it says toward the south, and toward the east, and toward the pleasant land.
Yeah, towards all he was conquering all the lands, man. Okay, and but then you got them 4 generals, Ptolemy, Seleucus, Lysimachus, and Cassandra. Okay, that was set up. All right, and they were pushing that Hellenistic mindset throughout the lands. You got it.
It says, and it waxed great even to the host of heaven, and it cast down some of the host and of the stars to the ground, and stamped upon them.
Right. It says, and it cast down some of the host of Israel. Right. It cast Israel down to the ground. Okay. And it says, and of the stars to the ground, and stamped upon them. Matter of fact, you still got that. I got it. First Maccabees.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay. Yeah. Khan, you want to get that? You could go back to First Maccabees real quick, and you can go to you can start at like start at 20. We're gonna read to like 30. And then we'll be done with that.
First Maccabees chapter 1 verse 20.
Yeah, because it says it cast down some of the hosts. Like I said, it was Israel, and of the stars to the ground, and stamped upon them. Right? Go ahead.
First Maccabees chapter 1 verse 20. And after that Antiochus had smitten Egypt, he returned again in the 143rd year, and went up against Israel and Jerusalem with a great multitude, and entered proudly into the sanctuary, and took away the golden altar and the candlestick of light and all the vessels thereof. Yeah, like Alexander, we said earlier, Alexander didn't do that. Antiochus came with this whole mindset, like he was reading all scrolls. He was like, hold on now. And he looked at the people and said, they not worshiping the same God as we. So we got to take down their God and their concept of their God so that they can conform to us, which is why a couple verses up, you have some of Israel conforming to the ways of the king. And the way the way he convinced Israel to conform to their ways was through what? Their entertainment, like they do now. The media, you know, all the things, all the circuses in the world, man. And the same thing transitioned into the Roman Empire. They just did it more, even greater than the Greeks.
And then they failed, and you have America, that little horn that came out of them, which is America, and they doing it greater than the Romans. It's a Roman revision. Okay, nothing. It's the same kingdom, same mindset, just a better version of itself. And as you see, he conquered who? He conquered Egypt and all the lands. So they were going into all the lands, and they were learning the customs of each nation, and taking the concept of each god from each nation and applying it to their own method, which is why America is called spiritually Sodom and Gomorrah, spiritually Babylon, because they have all the customs of the ancient gods and all the ancient ways all into one way, which is the melting pot, as they call it, right? That great whore. That's why it's known as the great whore. And then it sleep with all the nations. It learned all the ways, and then it's pushing it back out to the nations, and so the nations can learn from them.
Right.
It's crazy as hell.
Right. So when the scriptures say this place is spiritually Assyria, this place is spiritually Egypt, Sodom and Gomorrah, it's because they took a little bit of what they like, i.e. wickedness, and then melting pot. Like that's why they call America the melting pot. Because they got all these things together and try to serve it to you like Gouda cheese. Like, oh, it's cool, just try it. Try with a little cracker. Like, no.
Yeah.
That's in direct opposition of the scriptures, man.
Yeah, that shit nasty. You take some pizza crust, mix with some macaroni, mix with some whatever. I mean, it's worse than a break. I mean, breaks could be good. Breaks be good, but you putting all type of stuff in it, man. You know what I'm saying? That's nasty.
Stuff that don't even go together.
Yeah, that's nasty. That's what America is. America is nasty, filthy. Stuff that don't even make sense is here, man.
A real wretched, filthy whore.
Shalom. Is a reincarnation of the beast. Yeah, come. You got it.
I started at verse 20 again. It says, and after that, Antiochus had smitten Egypt. He returned again in the 143rd year and went up against Israel and Jerusalem with a great multitude, and entered proudly into the sanctuary and took away the golden altar and the candlestick of light and all the vessels thereof, and the tables of the shewbread and the pouring vessels and the pouring vessels and the vials and the censers of gold and the veil and the crown and the golden ornaments that were before the temple, all which he pulled off.
He was destroying it. He destroying Solomon's temple, man. The house of David, man. You know, city of David. He was destroying it, man. All right, you got it.
Verse 23. He took also the silver and the gold and the precious vessels. Also, he took the hidden treasure which he had found.
Which he had found, man. Hey, real quick. This is Daniel 11. And this is Daniel 11, verse 38. It says, but in his estate shall he honor the God of forces, and the God whom his fathers knew not shall he honor with gold and silver and with precious stones and pleasant things. Thus shall he do in the most strongholds with a strange God, whom he shall acknowledge and increase with glory, and he shall cause them to rule over many and shall divide the land for gain. It's like, yeah, I think that's what. So it says, but I'm gonna start at 37. I'm gonna read 37. It says, neither shall he regard the God of his fathers, nor the desire of women, nor regard any God, for he shall magnify himself above all. And that's what Antiochus did, man. He didn't regard our God, man. He didn't regard our power or the women, as he's gonna hear when the brother keep reading. He not thinking about none of that, man, woman, child, old, beast, nothing. He exalted himself, man. You got it, all right.
First Maccabees chapter 1, verse 24. And when he had taken all away, he went into his own land, having made a great massacre, and spoken very proudly.
Salaki, I got one more precept going back to Daniel 11 and 28. It says, then shall he return into his land with great riches, and his heart shall be against the holy covenant, and he shall do exploits and return to his own land. This was the visions that the Father was giving to Daniel, man. Okay, it's lining up with secular history, man. You got it.
Verse 25. It says, therefore, there was great mourning in Israel in every place where they were, so that the princes and elders mourned, the virgins and young men were made feeble, and the beauty of women was changed. It says, every bridegroom took up lamentation,
Right.
and she that sat in the marriage chamber was in heaviness. The land was also moved for the inhabitants thereof, and all the house of Jacob was covered with confusion. And after 2 years fully expired, the king sent his chief collector of tribute unto the cities of Judah, who came unto Jerusalem with a great multitude, and spake peaceable words unto them, but all was deceit. For when they had given him credence, he fell suddenly upon the city and smote it very sore, and destroyed much people of Israel.
Yeah, it says it says it spake peaceable words unto them. The words, and it says, and all was deceit, because that's who he is. He will make covenants and treaties and deals with our people, and he will break them. Thing he did with Gad, Reuben, all the Seminole Indians and all that. He came over here and did the same thing. Ephraim, all our people, man. He will make treaties with us, and he will break them, man. That's how he will deceive many by peace, as we're going to read in Daniel 8. So we probably can go back to Daniel 8. It's a lot in that too. Yeah, because if you jump down, we probably won't read it, but if you jump down to 41, you can read to like 50. All right, because he started to kill Israel for not serving his holding to his God, his customs, and his ways. Right? He said all should be one people. All right, and he sent this decree out to the people. And then the ones that didn't get down with the program, he would kill. And the ones that did, he would grant them whatever. Here we go back to Daniel. I think it was on verse or you can go to 11.
I'll go after it.
8. Shit, we on 10. We left off on 10.
Sloppy, right. 10. Daniel chapter 8, verse 10, it says, and it waxed great even to the host of heaven, and it cast down some of the host and of the stars to the ground, and stamped upon them. Yet he magnified himself even to the prince of the host, and by him the daily sacrifice was taken away, and the place of the sanctuary was cast down. And an host was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression, and it cast down the truth to the ground, and it practiced and prospered.
All right, the truth meaning the law. We cast the law down to the ground. You got it.
Verse 12. And an host was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression, and it cast down the truth to the ground, and it practiced and prospered. Verse 13. Then I heard one saint speaking, and another saint said unto that certain saint which spake, how long shall be the vision concerning the daily sacrifice and the transgression of desolation, to give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden under foot? And he said unto me, unto 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. You read?
Yeah, so it says, and he said unto me, unto 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. So, all right, let's do this math real quick. Damn, what's that? Let me see. I got a precept, but I don't know what it's at. I don't want to read it. It says, I might have to read that, man. But I think it's First Maccabees 4. So yeah, so the math, it says, we can do the math real quick. It says, where is that? Oh, okay, 14. And he said unto me, unto 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. Right. So like Apostle, I think Ramla was doing it, mentioned Antiochus to the feast of the dedication, in a sense. But this you're gonna find out after we do the math, it was between 6 and 7 years. So we can do we could write 2,300. Where that black pen at that you got it? I'm gonna write better. Yeah, 2,300 divided. 2,300 divided by 365. Right, so you got 200. You got what did it say? 2,300 days. So you got 2,300 days divided by 365 days. All right. What you want to do the math on the phone?
Yeah, God, go. I try to do old school.
It's gonna be around like 6 point something, and you round it up to 7.
6.3013696.
Let me see that.
Yeah.
Oh, no, that's it. I just want to show
2,300.
the camera. So that's 6.30. So you just round it up to 7. You know, so between 6 and 7 years. All right. So then you take like, oh, again, like I said, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed out, you know, going into Judas Maccabees, which I'm about to get in First Maccabees 4. So you got, and now you got the year, what's that? 168 BC. So you would take that 168, 168 BC, and you would plus 7 for the 7 years. I mean, yes, 7 years. So that would be
175.
Yep, 175. And that around year 175 BC will be the year when Antiochus really came hard with them hard taxes, you know, and the different things that he was pushing. He would really that around that time was when he went gangster on us, gangstified, you know what I'm saying, even more. All right, so let me get this real quick. I'm gonna just breeze through this. I'm gonna just read this. I mean, precepts come to mind too, but I'm gonna just read this and so we can finish out this Daniel 8. This is First Maccabees 4. I'm gonna start at 44. And when as they consulted what to do with the altar of burnt offerings, which was profane, they thought it best to pull it down, lest it should be a reproach to them, because the heathen had defiled it. Wherefore they pulled it down and laid upon the stones in the mountain of the temple in the convenient place, until there should come a prophet to show what should be done with them. Right. And I'm just keep reading. Then they took whole stones according to the law and built a new altar according to the former, because Antiochus destroyed it, man. It says, and made up the sanctuary and the things that were therein, the temple, and hollowed the courts, made it holy. They made also new holy vessels in the temple. They brought the candlestick and the altar of offerings and of incense and the table. Right. This is dealing with the Feast of Dedication. It says 50. And upon the altar they burnt incense, and the lamps that were upon the candlesticks they lighted, that they might give light in the temple. Furthermore, they set the loaves upon the table and spread out the veils, and finished all the works which they had begun to make. Now on the 25th day of the 9th month, which is called the month Salslu, in the 148th year, they rose up between the morning and offered sacrifice according to the law upon the new altar of burnt offerings which they had made. Look at what time and what day the heathen have profaned it, and went in, and even in that was it dedicated with songs and citherns and harps and cymbals. It says, then all the people fell upon their faces, worshiping and praising the power of heaven, who had given them good success. Precepts I have with that is John 10:22-23. I think 2 Chronicles 7:7 and 9. I can't remember what that say though. And so they kept the dedication of the altar 8 days, and offered burnt offerings with gladness, and sacrificed the sacrifice of deliverance and praise. They decked also the forefront of the temple with crowns of gold, and with shields, and the gates and the chambers they renewed, and hanged doors upon them. Thus was there very great gladness among the people. Because every high holy day was a form of victory. That's why our holy days are special, man, and important to keep, because they will always symbolize victory. That's why it's going to be a new holy day, like Apostle Tahar would say, dealing with this new deliverance, the second Exodus. It says, thus was there very great gladness, and we always rejoicing. Joel 2:27 say, my people should never be ashamed. We're never ashamed at the fact that our enemy is going to be put down, man. Whatever the way the Lord see fit. Thus there was very great gladness among the people, for that the reproach of the heathen was put away. You see? Moreover, Judas and his brethren with the whole congregation, so that prophet was Judas, with the whole congregation of Israel, ordained that the days of the dedication of the altar should be kept in their season from year to year by the space of 8 days. From the 25th day of the month, Soslu with mirth and gladness. At that time also they builded up the Mount Zion with high walls and strong towers and round about, lest the Gentiles should come and tread it down as they had done before. And they set their garrison to keep it, and fortify Bethsura to preserve it, and the people might have a defense against Idumea. Against Idumea, man. Right? You got it, Alex. Like it.
Daniel chapter 8, verse 13.
14.
14. It says, and he said unto me, unto 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. And it came to pass, when I, even I, Daniel, had seen a vision, and sought for the meaning, then behold, there stood before me as the appearance of a man.
Right, because this is the angel, but like it said, this is when the sanctuary was cleansed. Okay, but then it said like he's dealing with the angel, right? Go ahead. The angel had to give him a clarification. Go ahead.
16. And I heard a man's voice between the banks of Eli, which called and said, Gabriel, make this man to understand the vision. So he came near where I stood, and when he came, I was afraid and fell upon my face. But he said unto me, understand, O son of man, for at the time of the end shall be the vision.
Not this time we living in, but the time of his time, right? These visions is going to come to pass. All right, you got it.
Verse 18. Now as he was speaking with me, I was in a deep sleep on my face toward the ground, but he touched me and set me upright. And he said, behold, I will make you know what shall be in the last end of the indignation. For at the time appointed by the end shall be. The ram which thou sawest having 2 horns are the kings of Media and Persia. And the rough goat is the king of Grecia. And the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king.
Wait, Khan, so like you read 20 already?
Oh
no, you're at 21 right now?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, Khan, that rough goat was Philip. All right. It's the king of Grecia, and the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king, which is Alexander. You got it.
Verse 22. Now that being broken, whereas 4 stood up for it, 4 kingdoms shall stand up out of the nation, Salakia, but not in his power.
Yeah, but not in his power.
Not in his lineage. The 4 kings come from the generals instead of coming from Alexander the Great's lineage, because his people was murdered.
Yep, Khan, and it says kingdom shall stand up out of all the nation, but not in his power. But and it also goes into because they didn't set it up on their own. It was established by their forefathers. They set up the power, that whole shebang, and they just continue in their stead. So it wasn't set up by their own power, but you know what I'm saying, by what was established before them. You got it. 23.
Yeah, verse 23. It says, and in the latter time of their kingdom, when the transgressors are come to the full,
the Greek kingdom,
a king of fierce countenance and understanding dark sentences shall stand up.
Antiochus IV. And right, Salakia, because it says and understand, it says a king of fierce countenance, man. Like I said earlier, that's why he had a fierce countenance, man. He had a dark sentences. He would go in, like I said, he would read our books, and that's where he painted the likeness of his images. You know, he whitewashed all the images. He took everything down and completely reversed it, man. Okay, that's the product of what we still have today.
Verse 24, and his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power, and he shall.
That's what I was referring to, Slacky. Yeah, I jumped the gun.
So and his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power, and he shall destroy wonderfully, and shall prosper and practice, and shall destroy the mighty and the holy people. And through his policy Also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand.
Salaki, and he destroyed, and that was around 168, 170, between 168 and 175 BC. Okay, he destroyed this, man. Okay, completely destroyed us. Like we brought out earlier with the math, that was around that time. You put hard taxes on us. It was a lot going on, man. As we read in First Maccabees. Salaki.
It says, and he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. He shall also stand up against the prince of princes, but he shall be broken without hand.
Yeah, kind. It says he should it's a lot in that. He said but he shall be broken without hand. All right, real quick. You want to put you back right now? First Maccabees 6. Yeah, because this is how we're gonna read real quick. Just gonna breeze through this. This is how he was broken without hand. And I was talking going into YAHWASHI YAHWASHI. Judah and ultimately YAHWASHI YAHWASHI. He was broken without hand because he died a horrible death, man. He had a stomach situation, as we're about to read in First Maccabees 6. And he didn't die by military. He didn't die by war. He died by, and that's why on his deathbed he was trying to apologize to Israel, man. You know what I said? But it don't mean nothing, man. It should be First Maccabees 6. You see 6, and we just started at the top. It's like, let me see, First Maccabees 6. Prevailed through our country. Yeah, through 16. Yeah, it's First Maccabees 6. We start at the top. We're gonna read to like 16.
Our time. First Maccabees chapter 6, verse 16. Salaki 6, verse 1. About that time, King Antiochus, prevailing through the high countries, heard say that Elameus in the country of Persia was a city greatly renowned for riches, silver, and gold, and that there was in it a very rich temple, wherein were coverings of gold, and the breastplate and shields which Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian king, who reigned the first among the Grecians, had left there. It says, wherefore he came and sought to take the city and to spoil it, but he was not able, because they of the city, having had warning thereof, rose up against him in battle. So he fled and departed thence with great heaviness, and returned to Babylon. Moreover, there came one who brought in tidings into Persia, that the armies which went against the land of Judea were put to flight, and that Lysias, who went forth first with a great power, was driven away of the Jews, and that they were made strong by the armor and power and store of spoils, which they have gotten of the armies whom they had destroyed. Also that they had pulled down the abomination which he had set up upon the altar in Jerusalem, and that they had compassed about the sanctuary with high walls as before, and his city Bethshur. It says, now when the king heard these words, he was astonished and sore moved, whereupon he laid him down upon his bed and fell sick for grief, because it had not befallen him as he looked for. And there he continued many days, for his grief was ever more and more, and he made account that he should die. Wherefore he called for all his friends and said unto them, the sleep is gone from my eyes, and my heart faileth for very care.
Man, this nigga died of grief, man. Go ahead, bro.
Verse 11, and I thought with myself, into what tribulation am I come, and how great a flood of misery is it wherein now I am? For I was bountiful and beloved in my power. But now I remember the evils that I did at Jerusalem, and that I took all the vessels of gold and silver that were therein, and sent to destroy the inhabitants of Judea without a cause, and without a care in the world. It says, I perceive therefore that for this cause these troubles are come upon me, and behold, I perish through great grief in a strange land. Then called he for Philip, one of his friends, whom he made ruler over all his realm, and gave him the crown and his robe and his signet. To the end he should bring up his son Antiochus and nourish him up for the kingdom. So King Antiochus died there in the 149th year.
Good kind, man. That nigga died of grief, man. You know, he the Most High, hey, he caused he was broken without hand, and like I said, Judah, going into Judah, because he brought the kingdom down, man. And that's what we celebrated. When we had the feast of dedication. We rose up into power. And other things happened, but that's another lesson. We go back to that, so we can finish this off. Daniel 8, you will be 25.
Daniel chapter 8 verse 25. And through his policy also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart.
Right, through his policy, his education, right? Wisdom of Solomon too, right? His education, he pushed he pushed his information out, his customs, his fashion, his ways, the Hellenistic area, man. Okay.
All right. And by peace shall destroy many. He shall also stand up against the prince of princes, but he shall be broken without hand.
Right. He destroyed many by peace. All the treaties and all that, he would go against them. All right.
Verse 26. And the vision of the evening and the morning which was told is true. Wherefore shut thou up the vision, for it shall be for many days.
Mm-hmm. And this was during the Babylonian Empire, right? So these things, these were things that was about to come to pass, man. Because this is during the Babylonian Empire.
Daniel chapter 8 verse 27. And I Daniel fainted and was sick certain days. Afterward I rose up and did the king's business, and I was astonished at the vision, but none understood it.
Yeah, and then like again, this was during Alexander's reign. But he said what he just said. He said, I was astonished at the vision, but none understood it. Because they were living during that time. It's like right now, the Most High come to me, the brother, the Yash, and he give us a vision. Man, we ain't gonna know how to, like, say we see some future type of, we ain't gonna know what that is, man. We, we only know what we know. We know a bat, we know this, we know that, you know what I'm saying? But we're gonna describe it as the best of our ability to what we know, because we don't know of these kings to come in the future. We don't know of certain names and different stuff. We don't know it's gonna be a Joe Biden the fifth. You know what I'm saying? We just know Joe Biden. We shit. Even if we never heard of a Joe Biden, we know a king is gonna come that pushes the mark of the beast. You know what I'm saying? Whatever.
So like just like when John was on the island of Patmos, he seen it like I went from the actual, so like from the mask to the vaccine to the actual chip, and he didn't necessarily understand like there was no need for a type of face mask. There was no need for all your information on one chip in order for you to buy or to sell or to conduct life as quote unquote normally.
You're kind. And that's a beautiful point. That's a beautiful point. So yeah, and the last point, Antiochus died around what was it, 164 BC? Yeah, 164 BC. When he got that little sickness, whatever, punk ass thing. But yeah, that was Daniel 8 breakdown, man, in a nutshell of things. We go into more details with the secular history, but like I said earlier, we'll be here all day. Goddamn. So again, with that, man, we pray with edifying to the elect. That's because that's all that matters. But the elect, man, sheep, YAHAWASHI, shot. We give honor and glory to Yahawah, BAHASHAM, BAHASHAM, HAQADASH. Again, double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who will well teach you on the sound doctrine. So I give the brother has some precepts on there. Yeah, we're gonna have a food today. Second Ezra 11:45. Therefore appear no more thou eagle, nor thy horrible wings, nor thy wicked feathers, nor thy malicious heads, nor thy hurtful claws, nor all thy vain body. The highest, this all you have 44. This 44, Second Ezra 11:44. The highest also have looked upon the proud times, and behold, they are ended, and his abominations are fulfilled. And his abominations are fulfilled, man. Every kingdom has its time to rule. Every people had its time to rule. And even with the Esau think he's gonna rule forever, but even his kingdom his time is gonna be fulfilled, and it's gonna do exactly what YAHWAH has set out for it to do. Why? Because his words should not return back unto him void. He gave every man an appointed time. All right. So again, Shalom, peace to the elect, Abba.
Abad.